Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I'm talking about X-Men 2099 number 1. Today's video is part of a series I'm doing where I'm exploring some of the top sellers of 1993. I'm mostly sticking to number ones or anniversary issues that have gimmick covers and stuff. There's several I'm not going to do that are like just high-selling books, middle of the run. Today we have X-Men 2099 number 1, both a number 1 and a gimmick cover. So let's take a look. Got our nice blue foil of the 2099 line. Each one had a different color. This is the 6th title, I think, from the 2099 line. It started with Spider-Man, and then I don't remember the order, but Ravage 2099, Punisher 2099, Doom 2099, and then later Unlimited number 1. But this was the first new ongoing, probably one of the most anticipated once the 2099 line started, was definitely an X-Men title. We got a couple superstars on here. Ron Lim, who was pretty big in the early 90s, and inked by Adam Kubert in this one, which I don't remember that from back in the day. I do remember Ron Lim on here, but I didn't remember Adam Kubert on inks. So I'm not sure if this cover layout is meant to be like a giant size X-Men number 1 homage or not. It's got some similarities with like figures across the top, or if they're just trying to get a group shot of everybody in here. And this issue introduces pretty much all of these characters, although this character is a little unclear as to who it is, at least from the cover. I've got an idea of who it is as the book goes on, but we never see him looking like this. I always like looking at the ads. We got an ad for Nightmare Before Christmas coming to theaters this fall. This had an October release date, which meant it probably came out in like August. Kind of got the setup of the 2099 world had already been established at this point. Corporations kind of run everything. It's got a little bit of Blade Runner to it. It's not really dystopian. This just looks that way because it's out in the Nevada desert. He's going to this base, which at first I thought maybe it was Gamma Base, but it says it's some kind of self-sufficient, non-polluting, working and living environment. And it was abandoned because of the politics of the time in the 21st century. So in 1993, they were still talking about sustainability and stuff, and how it was a political cudgel for probably one side or the other. So we meet this character, and he's going into this place. Looks deserted, but he meets this guy at the front, and he immediately says his name. So that's good establishment of who he is. And his name is Junk Pile. And he doesn't really explain who or what he is. He asks, like, are you a mutant to him? He's like, what? No, he's unsure. So we're still living, even in 2099, we're still living in a world where mutants are, I guess, frowned upon enough to where he feels like he needs to hide that he's a mutant. So he goes in through and finds there's like this huge party going on. Looks like a dance party or something, almost like a rave. As he stumbles through the crowd, he meets another mutant, and we get her, and she's named, so we know she's going to stick around. They said they call her Tina, short for Serpentina. She's got this dragon tattoo and obviously has some like stretchy arms, at least, that go around him. And even though it weirds him out, he sticks by her for pretty much the rest. Then she explains we're going to meet this guy, who I guess is our Colossus-like character. He can turn to different metals by touching them. And here he's playing some kind of musical instrument and using the metal in his body to make sounds, which is pretty neat. Pretty wordy to explain what's going on here, but pretty cool concept overall, I would say. Moving back over here, we see this junkyard or junk pile character again talking to Shakti, who was mentioned before. I guess she had given the other character, whose name I don't recall. He doesn't even say his name there. Let's see. So they're doing a pretty good job of establishing everybody else. But okay, it says it right here. Timothy Sean Fitzgerald. I guess I should mention this is written by John Francis Moore. And he was on quite a few X books at the time. I think he did a pretty healthy run of X-Force. I know he was around at least through the Age of Apocalypse stuff. Back to where I was. Okay. So this person was mentioned to have given Timothy Sean Fitzgerald the card to come and the location to come to this place. They're having a disagreement here about how the character we haven't met yet named Zion should be using his powers. And he's definitely coming from like, we're mutants. We should just be like overpowering everybody. And she's like, you need to chill out. She explains how her powers work here. So good establishment. Hop over to Las Vegas. And we meet this guy on a horse who's apparently some corporate bigwig. And then we meet Zion. Zion talks about he's doing human trafficking, I guess, of mutants. And this guy needs to stop. Of course, he's like, whatever. We run corporate America 2099. Like, get out of here. And so he threatens him, and he demonstrates his power where he's able to make this wall just crumble. I guess it just decayed and fell apart. And then he walks away. Now we're going to meet another new character who is apparently on trial in some kind of public forum. Well, I guess he's already been to trial, and they're running this like a slot machine. It's even got the big handle. It's kind of ridiculous. And he's come up with these triple skulls for a death sentence, and then the next one is going to show how he's supposed to die. It's pretty inhumane. He's got some like inhibitors on over his head right here, and you can already tell that this guy is going to be this guy. I mean, their faces look the same. You can tell he's pretty violent. They carry him all after he threatens this dude. They shock him, and he's being carried out. And we meet another guy who is apparently the son of the man on the horse we just read. And that, for a second, that was confusing, but it was pretty easy to decipher. And then this girl here randomly kisses him, gives him his final kiss of, before he's sentenced to death. And they are brother and sister. It's established there. Okay, this was kind of a cool insert of all the 2099 titles. So if you were just an X-Men fan, hadn't picked up any 2099 books yet, you come to this part, enter the world of 2099, and you get a little introduction to everything. So you get a couple of pages of various issues. This is from, I think this was Spider-Man #2, with their Vulture character, and then your Ravage pages. Title wasn't too good. There's a couple of pages of Doom. The Doom series was pretty good. Never really a big fan of the spikes on that costume, but otherwise, pretty cool. Got a cool centerfold spread of this X-Men team by Ron Lim and Adam Kubert. A couple of pages that don't even appear in this issue. This will be the next issue, actually, now that I'm looking at it. I skipped over it because before I was like, oh, these pages will just be in this issue. So I skipped over it when I read it. Punisher, 2099 Unlimited, that had 2099 Hulk. I never liked the 2099 Hulk. Looking like a dragon. It's just not what I want out of a Hulk. Anyway, so that was kind of a cool introduction to the world of 2099. Okay, back to the main story, and we see the guys that were carrying the other mutant away. Got a fast character going by. They're like, what? All of a sudden, they're in this crystal stuff. She says the crystal is porous and that they can still breathe. So she obviously is kind of like Storm. She's not going to kill people, is what I'm getting the vibes from her. Let's see. They don't say their names on this page, I don't think. Okay, Mean Streak. His name is Mean Streak. And her name is Crystallian. So they do. In this one panel, they say both of these characters' names. So, you got some good establishing here by John Francis Moore, the writer. So they talk about taking his neural inhibitors off. He could barely talk. It's so painful. Once he gets them off, he's basically like, get out of my way. I'm going after those people. And they want him to come with them back to that like desert stronghold that they were at, because they were sent here by Zion to come get him. And he's like, changes into this form and is like, I don't know you anything, and I'm out of here. And in a way, he didn't ask to be rescued. So that's your angel analog, and he obviously looks more like a demon. Back to the kids here, walking into the stable, and they find Dad looking like this on the horse. And we didn't see that happen, so we're going to be led to believe that Zion and his decomposing hand did this to him. And the girl is just, she's cynical herself, like, oh, Dad, you've looked better. Guess you finally underestimated one of your enemies. So you're getting a sense that she's either going to be on the side of the X-Men or just has her own motives separately from the family here. Come back to Shakti. Zion comes up. She's like, how did it go with, I've even forgotten his name. Let's see. Singe. So these three, I guess their last name is Singe. He was the dad, the son, and the daughter. She's like, how did it go with Singe? She's like, we'll talk about that later. We've got something going on. So he doesn't say that he killed him. And he goes and he gives his speech to all the mutants that are gathered. Of course, they're not all mutants. That was said earlier by the Serpentina girl. And we've got this mysterious looking character going around. He shoots out a camera. Shakti's I guess the security lead. And he's like the bouncer. She's like, what's going on with that camera? He's like, everything's good. Don't sweat it. So he starts giving his speech about being a mutant, being an outcast, typical X-Men stuff. The character we started the book with is in front like, oh man, he's like talking to me. And as he gives his speech, we see this guy's like putting a gun together. So maybe his hand is like that all the time, and he keeps a glove on it. He mentions Xavier. He mentions Magnus or Magneto and their contributions to mutant kind. And there was apparently some big purge, the Great Purge, at some point, between the modern day and the 2099 world, where mutants are basically forced into hiding again. Our character that started the story sees something going on the balcony, and he explodes with his power to try to stop it. He can tell something's going on, and he explodes, and it explains how his power kind of caused a brownout when he was a teenager, and he's been living on the run. Kind of a quick dump of what's been going on with him. He hits the would-be assassin, which makes his shot off. I like that. Shoom. I like those O's on the shoom. Or shall. Pretty good lettering there and there. Zion has been shot. The blood here cracks me up. It's like, so does he bleed white blood? Or do they just want that color it white so that you could see it on top of his black clothes? I mean, you probably could have just shown him laying there and say I'm shot. And not even really need to show the blood. Looks like it's up there by his heart and his lungs. Then we have like, I don't know if this is Alchemax or whoever, but we have our corporate police coming in to raid the place. This is pretty cool. The guy that does metal turns to adamantium. He must have like band. I think that's what it is. It doesn't explain that, but I think he's got these different bands on his, like, that he wears of different kinds of metal, and all he has to do is touch it and he becomes that metal. So it's kind of Colossus-like, although not, he has to touch something. So if you were able to get those bands off of him some way, and there's no metal around, he wouldn't be able to turn into anything. So he turns into adamantium, which is pretty neat. The other characters start reacting. This girl's like, oh, what happened? Come on, we got to get out of here because the police are raiding the place. And they start going down there, and I like this. Cerebra's activated the hydraulics. So this is the first time I've seen Cerebra used other than Grant Morrison's new X-Men run, which wouldn't come for another, 8 or 9 years after this. So I found that kind of funny because I'd forgot that they called it Cerebra, whatever, and that it just says Cerebra has activated the hydraulics. So maybe Cerebra is just some kind of AI that operates the place. So here they are jumping in this getaway vehicle, and Zion walks up. He's like, Timothy, knew you joined my X-Men. X-Men to be continued. And that's the end of it. And so that's why I was thinking, this is where it ends, and they're getting on this bus. That's why I was thinking, these pages and this little preview is probably the start of the next issue. I wonder how long Adam Kubert stays on this book, because he was probably doing Wolverine at the time, I would think. 93. So it's interesting that he would be drawing or penciling Wolverine and inking this at about the same time. And that's it for X-Men 2099, number 1. This is the number 28 top-selling book of 1993. So you would think an X-Men book would be even up in the top 10, especially the 2099 line that was so popular at this particular time. This is the height of the 2099. It's still within the first year. Maybe Spider-Man is about to hit the number 12 issue. But you'd think that just shows you how much was going on in 93, that an X-Men title from a popular line was not even in the top 15. It was barely in the top 30 even. This was a pretty interesting read. I think that it did a good job establishing characters in the world of the mutants of 2099. It's different enough from regular X-Men that I think that you could jump into this and not feel lost in the same way that you would what was going on in the proper X-Men books at that time. It was removed enough from the Claremont lore and convolution that had built up so heavily at that point, and it was a fresh start. So I think for any new reader just wanting to get into something X-Men related, this was definitely a good jumping off point. And that's all I got for today. So until next time, read your comics.